Hi everyone, I'm Kimberly DiPersia. I'm the artistic director of All the Line Studio and Incubator. And for this month's next step, it's called Kingdom City. And we have our screenwriter, Michael Lamberti, here to talk a little bit about himself and about the screenplay, to give you a little bit of a prerequisite for coming in and seeing the show. So Michael, thank you so much for joining us for this.
Of course. Thank you for having me.
Course. So why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself, your background, any like your history and kind of what led you to writing. So,
Yeah. Hello, my name is Michael. I am a actor, producer, and screenwriter. I've been acting for about, I would say, oh goodness, like almost like over 13 years at this point. I have like a theater and multimedia and filmmaking background. Screenwriting has been a little bit of a challenge for me. So like Kingdom City was actually my very first like feature film that I ever wrote. I've had like a bunch of like experiences in like short films and everything. And so I came down to Full Sail University to pursue my master's degree like back in like 2021. And my biggest goal was to write a feature film by the end of my academic career. Since I do have like a writing and reading disability, so this was like an incredible challenge for me to, get better at like reading, writing, all that. And the biggest inspiration for the screenplay itself is actually my personal connection with my dad. I never really met him in like 24 years of my life. I'm actually going to be turning 28 in July. So this was a very, very scary moment for me because, my mom did tell me a little bit about why she separated herself from my dad. And, I'm going to just leave that part a little bit private, but let's just say, for my safety and for her safety, she had to like, just separate herself from that because he was just a very unhealthy individual at the time. And so, we didn't really speak to each other until like the pandemic was coming around. So I gave him like just a phone call because it was just like if I'm gonna like whatever happens in the pandemic, I'm at least like bury the hatchet and make peace for with this. So I gave him a phone call the one day, and he shockingly picked up. We talked for a little bit, and my mom did eventually tell him that I was moving down to Florida to pursue my education, and he met with me on move-in day and pretty much helped me move up there. And I remember that feeling of like I made peace with myself about like wondering if my dad like ever loved me or will ever like accept me, and if I can actually have a relationship with this guy who I didn't really have a relationship with until then. And that was like the big inspiration because I had to really dig into myself to like what what do I want from this? What is my and what's stopping me for actually pursuing a relationship with my dad, and what am I willing to do so? And whatever happens then, I still have at least like a group of friends that I can still call my family in a sense, and also the family that does, love and support me. And so this was quite an emotional journey for me when writing Kingdom City.
wow, that's amazing. I think, the power of art to express ourselves, to work through things that we're experiencing, our fears, our anxieties, is so can be so powerful. And you've taken that and you've written such an imaginative, creative, creative screenplay, which, I mean, there are human characters, but there are animal characters, so like anthropomorphic. So if you can just tell us a little bit about like that world, what made you decide to make it so like this fantasy type of world, and a little bit about the premise for that.
Of course. For me, I I always had a really fun fascination of like anthropomorphic characters. Of course, like I grew up on stuff like with like cartoons that had anthropomorphic characters, like Regular Show, for example. Of course, I'm a big fan of Zootopia, and it's kind of funny because during my education we had to write a short film for our end of our academic career. And I wanted to do something around, the premise of confronting your fears, especially when it comes to childhood trauma. But I was like, maybe that was like a little bit, because it had to be like under 10 minutes. And I wanted to like honor the message. And so I was like, this deserves a little bit more time and more like length, especially length of time. So I was able to play with a lot more. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna save this for a feature project. And I was just sitting in my apartment, just like wondering, like, what do I do with this and make this like entertaining, fun, but also like emotional at the same time. And, I love Pixar movies so much, especially when it comes to like, Soul and it clicked to me, oh, this should definitely be an animated, feature film because there's also like there's adults out there that love animated films. They definitely love like say like Hell of a Boss, Has Been Hotel, like adult animation stuff. And there's quite frankly not a whole lot of it because I think everyone could kind of think of like say South Park, American Dad, Family Guy to like those be popping up in their heads. But I'm thinking like adult animation specifically can be a form of like storytelling and arcs. It's because people still watch animated movies, and I love the genre so much, especially when it comes to like anime. So I was very much inspired by this one anime film, particularly called The Boy and the Beast, where a kid who actually unfortunately that his mom died and he gets recruited by this bear samurai, and it just all the ideas just kind of like just clicked together, and it was like, oh my god, this is my pretty much escape world, but also like a way to like heal. So that's what I really got from that movie, The Boy and the Beast. And so I wrote that down, but how would I make like more, I like how when characters have like psychology background, they feel like actual like human beings. So I was thinking if this was, in today's world, right? In this it's decided to discover like a prehistoric species that survived millions of years, I think our society will kind of like just lose their minds or be emotionally numb to it. So I did play on the fact that, if this human being came to their world, their society could probably like collapse because everything they probably knew has just been a lie. And so I immediately thought, oh, The Purge. I was like, oh my God, this is Zootopia meets The Purge. It was so I just kept on just writing down just funny or just absolutely just messed up stuff because I was thinking, oh, this is get to be a really amazing comedy horror aspect of it. And ever since then, I challenged myself from writing this screenplay within a month. And I was able to achieve that with, having a draft by the end of the month. So it took a little bit because like I had an editor who helped me out throughout the entire process. But I was happy to say I did achieve my goal of actually writing a screenplay within a month and before I graduated.
That's great. And yeah, Zootopia meets The Purge is the a great description for this screenplay because it's just I don't want to no spoilers, but it does get pretty twisted. Where it's like first you think it's kind of yeah, it's like it starts kind of Zootopia and then it just gets darker and darker and darker and you're like, "Whoa, oh my gosh, is this really happening?" So
It's like, oh, I thought it was a cute little kids movie. Oh my God.
no, so this is not for children. Um, but it does have a lot of heart, like there is this theme, of the father that like you've like as you said, you kind of personally like connected with. So you have this like through line, all this crazy stuff happening, but throughout you have this one character who's grappling with the idea of like going to meet his father for the first time and then also being introduced to a father figure who is a dragon. So like you balance the heart and like the world and story as well really well with this. And why dragons? Because like of course there's all different animals, but why specifically did you throw in dragons into the mix?
Oh, so my mom could probably can vouch for this because I've been like a gigantic dragon nerd since I was a kid. And because to me, like dragons represent like so much what I think everyone should strive to be. Wise, powerful, and just know what they want. They pretty much they're go-getters. So pretty much dragons are stronger to when they want something they get it. So I always strive to have like at least like a heart of a dragon because they know what they want to learn more, and they're not afraid to take what they want to protect and everything. And to me, I always like want to protect my friends and everything, but also like I have people that I can say like I feel like they have a heart of a dragon because they want to protect me as well. So I have a really interesting connections with dragons because I just think they're cool, and also I have a very strong philosophy when it comes to them. And they don't have to be all mean and scary. They could be very protective guardians.
That's very cool. I like that a lot. And I wasn't expecting that answer. I thought you were just gonna be like, dragons are cool. Why not? And like to have that like personal like deepness of how like you aspire to have the heart of the dragon is that's amazing. And yeah, and definitely see it. I mean, there's different dragon characters, but I think the main dragon definitely has a lot of heart and strength for that. As far as, with Next Step, you've been involved with some of our Next Step screenplay series events before. What are you most excited by having being a writer, seeing your screenplay on stage for the show?
Ooh, I guess what I'm really excited for is like all of the reactions because because Kingdom City did do the 10-minute show like a couple of months ago.
Yeah, our
And
cold
just
reading
hearing
night.
the
Yeah.
yeah, and hearing like the reactions from that night is like, oh my god, it's everything actually is clicking because Kingdom City has only been like submitted to like multiple film festivals, and I never really see like the judges or anyone else's reactions when they read the screenplay. So I only know like a couple people's reaction from like friends and colleagues who have read the screenplay. They gave me their honest opinions about it. And so this is actually like a live reaction of like pretty much if they were watching this movie in full detail. And just the jokes that will be in this one, especially, well, the, don't want to spoil it, but like the lobster scene specifically, that one is going to be just absolutely just chaotic and just like what am I watching? And the absolute audience reaction of after that night specifically, everyone coming up to us, what happens next? We need to know what happens next. I was like, I can't tell you. You have to come to the next step to know what happens to Adam later in the movie. So I just can't wait to see everyone's reaction while the show is happening. That's what I'm really most excited for.
Yeah, I think that that's the one of the huge bonuses and benefits of having Next Step is you get live audience feedback that you wouldn't get if you just are, have a script that you're sending off maybe for a friend to read or something. You're not getting like those live responses to actors performing the roles in front of the audience. And yeah, and for the cold reading night, I must add that we had an audience poll at the end of it, and Kingdom City was our top winner of people that wanted to see this as a feature length staged reading. So this is like what we've been waiting for since February, and we did the cold reading. So all those people that came to our cold reading night and tuned in, like this is the time. Come out and see what happens to Adam, and does he find his friends? Like what goes on? Is there more to the camel? Uh,
Did he ever get the gumbo?
Does he ever get the gumbo? Yeah. So yeah. Well, is there anything else that you wanted to mention about the show, or about the screenplay, that we haven't talked about, in this interview so far?
I will say this. When it comes to like, obviously we talked about like, found family a little bit, and especially when it comes to like confronting, trauma from, from either parents or any sort of like situation. And I would say like this screenplay does touch a lot of those elements, and how like you are not defined by what happens is pretty much like how you go about it. And because it is a way to like end a generational trauma, and how you go about it is how you are able to heal, and how you become the person you are always are meant to be. And I think a lot of people are going to really relate to Adam in one way or another, because he is that kid who is insecure, who doesn't really know what he wants to do in life yet. And he doesn't really know who he is, because he's always had asked that question: is there always something wrong with me? Or is there like, does my, insert family member here ever really cared about me? And everyone, either some people would, relate to Adam because they might be that parental figure that they may either want to reach out to, or maybe they want to bury the hatchet and just move on with their lives. And whatever that Kingdom City speaks to you, you will probably might find that answer.
I think that's a very powerful message, and I do think a lot of people are going to, relate to it. Surprisingly, they're coming for the animals, and then they stay for like the heart, and they're like, "What? How did I relate to this?" Which I think is such. That's the power of art. I think that's the power of storytelling, and I'm very very excited to show this on June 30th at Bynx. So yeah. Thank you so much, Michael, for joining us, and we'll see you. And thank you for those that tuned in. We hope to see you at the show on June 30th, at Bynx at 7 p.m. All right. Thank you so much, Michael.
Hey, thank you.